Okay guys, I'm just going to show you how to do a quick full strip on a limited custom. I'm trying to lean around the camera to do this actually, so you can see everything I'm doing. So it's a bit awkward, but I'll try to do it so you can actually see everything. So the first thing to do is just remove the slide as normal. The gun's already been safety checked, no mag. You take out the slide release, remove the slide. Now you will find this spring behind the catch on some of them. Don't bother putting it back in because it's a waste of time. Okay, now we've got the slide off and you get all the bits out. So that what you do is you push the guide rod all the way forward and you have to hold it. You lift the outer barrel up out of its lugs and then you have to try and wiggle out the inner barrel like so. Now once that's out, you can move the outer barrel back and then the guide rod and the spring will just come out. Now there's a bush in here which needs to come out. Sometimes, but quite often actually, you will have a burr up in here which stops it coming out, and this one has got the burr actually, so you need to remove that burr. And to do that, I've just got a small file here and I need to get right around the edge and take that burr off. It doesn't take too long. Okay, now we'll try and get that bush out. Normally it will just push out fairly easily, and there you go. There's the bush. Now once that's out, the outer barrel will just basically come out through the front. There you go. So that is that part done. Now with the sights, if you want to take them off, just undo the small Allen screw here. The front sight will pop off forwards. Now I do need to remove the rear sight on this one. All you do is undo the elevation screw. We'll do that. Now once that's out, the sight will just pivot up and there's a small spring just there which you remove. Now we need to just tap out the pin that's holding all this in. It looks, they're a bit strange these, sometimes they're put in from the right and sometimes they're from the left. This one, to me, it looks like it's going to come out that way actually. So using a small pin punch, just start to give that a tap, and yeah, that is correct, it does want to come out that way. So there, you just remove the pin and that's the rear sight off. Now because I'm going to spray this slide, I will take that blowback unit off. Now you need to undo the Allen screw up in there, so just whiz that out. Okay, like so. Now there is a spring just in there, I don't know if you can really see it here, but there's a spring there that will want to fly out across the room when you lift the blowback unit out, so be a bit careful of that and keep your fingers in the way of it to stop it coming out. The blowback unit is fairly simple, it will just actually lift up and out. There you go, like so. The spring goes in that side there. There's the other bit actually, the little plunger which goes in there as well. So that's the blowback unit out now. So that slide really for me is now ready to work on. That's fully stripped. So I'll just tuck that to one side. Okay, we've gone to the frame now. The first thing I normally do on these is take the safety out. So you start off with the right hand side of the safety and just undo the small grub screw, and generally that does just wiggle off quite easily actually. This one, that's it, see, that's straight off. It's a little bit more difficult to take the main one out because there's a little bar in there that you must press down before you try and tap this out, otherwise you can cause permanent damage. Now this little bar is just between the frame and the sear block. Now I need to keep that pressed, and at the same time you just give the other side a tap. And it should come out. This one's being a bit stiff. That was my phone ringing for some reason. Okay, now once you've tapped it, hold it opposite the shaft and it will just wiggle out, quite simply like that. Now when you push it back in, when you're reassembling the gun, don't push this part here, because you will put stress just there and you can cause that to fracture. So you really want to push it from exactly opposite. Okay, so just keep it out now. Now next we need to remove the trigger and the trigger bar. That's fairly easy. You just need to tap out the trigger pin, which is just here. Okay, so we'll get that tapped out. Just need to lift the gun up very slightly while I'm doing it. That normally comes out quite easily. Okay, now that's out, if you can see that. Now I need to lift the trigger up and out, and that the whole bar and trigger assembly will come out. You'll also find the small trigger return spring just here. Okay, so that's all out now. Next we'll just pop the grips off. Fairly straightforward, just a couple of screws and washers. The grips just lift off normally. That's it. So that's one side. Over to the other grip. Okay, that's up and off. Now we just whip off the mag well, fairly straightforward, just an Allen bolt here to undo. Just get that out. Okay, that's that, and the mag will just pop off backwards. Okay, it just slides off, so that's it. Now we need to remove the mag release. Now that's held in by a small screw here with a D-shaped cover. So we just need to undo that. Just the small screw. Again, it comes up fairly easily. Nothing will ping out when you do this. Now there's a small spring underneath. I don't know if you can actually see this really, which you just need to hook out. Just need a smaller screwdriver actually. And it will just lever up and out, and there it is. It's a small spring there. In fact, the mag release actually just fell out on its own as soon as that spring's out. So that's all that. Now next we need to remove the sear block. Okay, now that is just held in by a small screw here and another pin just there. Okay, now we just need to undo the small screw there. And again, we just need to knock out that small pin. Most of these pins do come out fairly easily actually. So there it is. That's the pin out. Now the sear block will basically just wiggle up and out. So if you can see that, and there it is. Okay, now this piece here will try to drop off when you take it out. It only goes on one way, it only sits on there. So when you put the sear block back in, you just hold that with your finger and then just push it all back in one, and they'll go in fairly easily. Just need to remove the hammer now. It's got quite an awkward screw on it, so I just made up a tool to take this out. I've just got an old screwdriver, dremelled a slot in the top. You can use some small long nose pliers. You need to apply a bit of pressure to the hammer, then basically you need to get that screw out. This one actually has been very, very awkward for some reason. What I may do is I've got some small tweezers here. Sometimes do get on it a bit better. It's actually, that's it. A little bit tedious this. Some people don't realise this is a screw, and they've actually punched them out, which strips the thread on the other side. So you do have to remember that this is actually a screw. If you apply some pressure to the hammer as you're taking this out, it does come out a little bit easier. Now once you've got it out a certain distance, like now, that's it, she's out. The hammer will then just lift up and out with the strut still attached. The hammer spring just sits in the back strap there, and that will just tip out. When you put this back in, the top is slightly narrower than the bottom, so the narrow end goes at the top. Now that is the gun actually fully stripped. When you reassemble, just do it as a reverse, just take a note of where the parts go, and there you go guys, you should be okay.